people sometimes, again, as you worked with Sony leaders across the globe, and obviously we're familiar with the parlance and we use it often in our work, but it could be that sometimes, the term influencing or persuasion, and I'll even throw negotiation gets put in interchangeably, right? So help us understand what is influencing. Are we talking about when someone makes a new decision as a result of it, or are we just nudging them? What in your view would influencing kind of just a loose understanding, not a definition, perhaps?
Right. And it's a great question. In fact, that's typically how I'd start off with most things is asking people, what do you think influence is? Influence is really the activity. Some people call it art or a process, but it's getting people to really do things that you would ideally want them to do that will be beneficial, not just to you, but the organization and even to them. We always think about these principles and practices as being done ethically. It's very important. But if you look at politicians, if you look at senior leaders, even if you've tried to, you said negotiation, that's absolutely right. If you're negotiating for something with somebody, you're trying to do some type of, you've got some type of bargaining occurring. I'm trying to influence you, or you try to influence me on what a final price is or what we're negotiating for, including it's a process of going back and forth and trying to help people understand and really adopt your way of thinking or do something that you want them to do. I would say the way of thinking is probably more in the line of persuasion, where getting them to act is more along the lines of influence.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Very nice. I think this was. I wanted to just kind of uh, put it out there just so that people understand that are we talking about what does it entail. So let's now go. Ed, you obviously mentioned a little while back saying that we think that we've echoed this several times in our workshops and client programs that yeah, senior leaders better become good at it, and if they're not already kind of acquired that skill. But here we're talking about a different cohort, the Gen Z, which is, strictly going by the dates, the eldest of the Gen Z would be about 28, 29. Now, there is often one could put the tag that they're fairly inexperienced, right? Or as you mentioned, that they could be taking on a role which is largely more execution oriented. In that kind of a context, how do you see does influencing become relevant for them, right? And they tag about inexperience, right? So where do they start their journey about influencing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Inexperience is always a tricky word to use, and I try not to label individuals or generations as such, but oftentimes people are newer to the workforce or newer to roles, even supervisory, first level supervisory roles. So influence has a lot to do with building your own credibility as a, we'll call it a professional in the workplace. And to be fair, people, even if they've not been in a formal organization prior to, have influenced, you've influenced brothers and sisters and mothers and fathers. If you've ever wanted to stay out later past a curfew, that's influence, right? So I would give people a lot more credit maybe than they might be accustomed to, because they usually are used to this. But in the workplace, a lot of your ability to influence comes from your own, what we'll call credibility and your competency. If you're someone that's seen as trustworthy, who's good at their work, if you're someone who is perceived as being effective and you meet deadlines, things that are usually within your control, oftentimes you've gained some ability to influence others. So if you're someone that always delivers things on time in terms of a project, and someone asks you to do something, you say, I don't think I'll be able to do that now, but I have other work. I could do it at a later point. That's starting this practice of influence. But a lot of it's predicated on the person recognizing, okay, this person usually delivers things or get things done on time. He or she probably really does have other things that they have to work on. I'm willing to negotiate with them. And just understanding some basic behaviors, asking questions, trying to understand what people need and what they want, really getting into the mind, so to speak, of the people you work with, what's important to them. Because that's how you can build relationships and then start to influence people. If you have good credibility, good trust, good influence, and good relationships, rather, then you're in a position to be able to, tell people in this little example we were talking about that, I can do this next week, but probably not this week because I have these other things that I need to wrap up.